Hello and welcome to the Anyone Can Play Guitar podcast,
which gives you, the listener, a series of hints and pointers on your journey as a musical artist.
providing you with interviews from those in the music industry, along with our own experiences.
Ben and James shine some light on the many pitfalls and opportunities that being a musician has to offer.
Last week we met Frank Turner following the release of his new album Be More Kind, which instantly hit the top 3 in the UK album charts. With Frank we discussed playing live, philosophy and what success looks like. This week we catch up with one of Virgin EMI's latest signings, Adam French, where we talk transitioning from band to solo artist, scams, the early days of a deal, and playing in Botswana. Welcome to episode 32 with me, James, and him,
Ben.
Right.
This is a fiasco, James. This is attempt 4. We've done this one.
Attempt 4.
I think it's a hit.
Well, I think it's your flatulence, really.
That's nothing to do with. That has not stopped any of these recordings.
Well, it hasn't helped.
It hasn't helped at all. I blame the fajitas.
Well, oh dear.
And no one needs to know this bit.
No, but it is warm, which is nice.
I think it's. Yeah, I'm not complaining about the heat.
No, we certainly shouldn't. And it was reasonable weather when we met Adam.
Segway, James. Lovely stuff.
Beautiful.
You're right, it was a bank holiday, and often bank holidays do not play ball with weather.
No.
But this one certainly did.
Oh, it was right on the page.
And that was probably an excellent thing for all of the acts and artists who were performing at the Hit the North Festival across.
Yes.
Well, I spoke about it in the interview, which you'll hear in a minute. But I still can't work out how many venues it was, but it was a fair few. And it was all the smaller venues rather than the arena and the Sage and that, which is, I mean, they couldn't put gigs on, but it was like the academies in Riverside.
That's great for artists, so the more of these, Adam mentioned the Sound City one in Liverpool and various others that are popping up. You've got loads of people who go to a place to see bands, artists, and you've got a great audience that are just there willing and ready to hear you. Yeah.
So all venues had like a big act like Cabbage or someone like that, or Peace were playing, a few bands like that. So they've got a good following, and there was like 10 support acts of varying degree of popularity. So if you're like the first on the bill, there's a fair chance people who love music, there's going to be one of the biggest crowds you're going to play. Yeah. I mean, we played one of them back in the day.
Well, there's normally a good vibe to these things as well.
Yeah, because it's a bank holiday. Who doesn't like a bank holiday?
Who does not like a bank holiday?
Maybe people in the retail sector. But
I didn't used to like working a bank holiday.
I didn't mind it because it was double time.
Ah, well, there was that.
Double time, and you can always go out afterwards, because at uni you just didn't care about hangovers.
That's true. Anyway, a wide-ranging conversation with Adam that ensued, which was really good. So
lots of stuff that were just interesting, actually. There's lots of stuff for emerging unside artists to listen to, but there's also things. Just an interesting story.
Yeah, I mean, not just the transition that he made from band to solo artist, but the journey, I guess, that he went on right the way through, and the ups and downs to eventually getting to where he is today, which is having recently signed to Virgin EMI.
Yes.
And then what that means now that he has recently done that. So whole host of things, and in addition, the whole Botswana bit.
I was going to say there's a little
say no more
sneaky surprise of a random country to play. And we how we got in touch with Adam, I was speaking to Rosanna at Virgin EMI just about the podcast in general. She went, "Got the perfect person for you." So she sent through some links to music of Adam's, listened to it and went, "You do have the perfect person for us."
And what a great chap.
Definitely. So let's go to a warm May bank holiday weekend. So, welcome to the podcast. I'm French.
Nice one for having me.
No, how's it going? So, Hit the North Festival is why you're up here in a minute.
Yes.
How did that go today?
Yeah, it was good, man. It was nice to play in Newcastle for the first time. Really receptive audience of people that were into songs and some people new songs, which was cool because we've never played here before. So, it was a nice introduction to your city.
That's cool. Good. It was the Academy 2, wasn't it?
Yes.
That was one of my favourite gigs to play when we played. Mainly because we could hear ourselves.
Yeah.
When you first start, you can't hear yourself.
Yeah, it does help.
And it helps for him because he normally shouts when you were singing because you couldn't hear yourself, but the monitors are good in there, and
Well, it always used to be. It was a nice sort of box room, or it used to be.
Yeah.
You used to get a reasonable atmosphere.
Yeah, it was cool. It was nice.
How many bands are acts are playing today?
Oh, mate, I don't know. Usually these things is like however many stages. There's probably hundreds across today, but I mean a couple of hundred or 100 or
most
something.
venues are booked out, like the boiler shop's booked out, the think tank's booked out. There's quite a few venues kicking about.
Yeah. And then loads of pubs tend to join in and get amongst
It's
it.
like a mini Fringe.
Yeah, it is. I think these are popping up more and more. Like the Great Escape was one that we did first, but then we've done Live at Leeds yesterday, which is pretty similar. And I'm pretty sure Liverpool Sound City is like I haven't done that one, but it's a similar vibe.
How do you find those kinds of gigs compared to a standard show that you're doing yourself?
It's different, obviously, because obviously at your own show you've got people that are definitely there because they've paid money to come and see you, whereas a festival show of any kind, whether it be in a field or in a grit box or whatever, you're going to have people that know you and people that don't, so you're not preaching to the converted in the same way as you are at your own show. But I quite enjoy it, man. I quite enjoy having to earn people's respect and stuff. Is like a nice little challenge in places, which is good. Yeah, it stretches us.
Do you approach them any differently?
Not really. I think we just remain, enjoy what you're doing and don't take for granted that you're on a stage, whether it be for people that are screaming lyrics or just trying to get to know songs for the first time or whatever. I think that as long as you're up there enjoying what you do and just not being a dick.
That comment comes up so many times.
It's not the first time we've heard it on the podcast, and I think it's sound advice. It really is. So
you definitely come across them, don't you?
Absolutely.
Every now and again.
So rolling back then. So what was your intro into music?
My background and upbringing was indie bands as a teenager. Like me and three mates got together and were like, right, we're going to be massive. And it was
you've got to think that.
When you're a teenager and you're hopeful and you've got all these idols and stuff, that's where you want to be. You love that music, you're into that music, you want to be a part of that, and you want your life to become something similar or whatever. And we were in that band for like 4 years or 5 years, and it got to the point where it was looking as though we might actually get somewhere with it. We got a few little Radio 1 spins and stuff like that. Like Steve Lamack started supporting us and stuff when he was there, and it fell apart because two of the guys went to university and I was just not ready to do that. I was hell-bent on music being what I wanted to do and spend my life doing, so I started writing my own songs and writing solo tunes, and I was sat on quite a bit of music that I didn't want to show the band because it was a little bit sadder or it was a little bit more, because my music in comparison to that, we were playing things that were, if you were to listen to it, it's like somewhere between like Queens of the Stone Age and Nirvana, right? And that in comparison to what I'm doing now is like completely different ballpark. So I did have songs that I was always interested in softer music and harmony and rich, delicate pieces of music within songwriting and stuff, but there were songs that weren't appropriate for that band that I was able to just start using for myself.
How easy or difficult a decision was that? If you're saying, for many people, I'd imagine if you're in a band and it's starting to get a bit of traction, I could imagine that being quite a difficult decision to sort of just step away.
It wasn't my decision. I didn't quit the band, so the band fell apart.
Right,
they
it was
left.
Happening anyway.
So it was actually my guitarist that called it a day. He was like, I'm living in Leeds now, Jake's living in Leeds, it's just getting too hard to rehearse, blah, blah, blah. And it just kind of fizzled out as a result of that. So it wasn't me walking away from it. It was that they were just... I think he lost faith, and he was also becoming interested in different things, and finding that he didn't necessarily want to be a musician. Like my drummer in that band decided that he wanted to go into I think he's an estate agent now, right? Because he wasn't interested in that slog of even though you're making zero money, he wanted to be able to have a house and a car and everything else. I didn't really give a shit. I was just I was happy to wing it for as long as I needed to wing it for, as long as I could do something that I was enjoying and genuinely passionate about. So it wasn't my decision to make, but it's it's something that you have to if people are gonna decide to split the band up or whatever, you can't just sit there and just cry. You know what I mean? You've got to just get yourself back up and get on with it.
Sometimes it works, doesn't it? Just that might be the push that you needed to
Yeah,
ready to
maybe.
go,
But I loved every minute that I spent in that band. And like my bassist now is the bassist from that band, and we're best friends. We grew up together. And you know, we spent some amazing, you know, days in the back of vans and stuff, and just like learning what it means to, you know, travel and play music, even if it is to like bar staff or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was, you know, it was enjoyable, and I just loved doing it, and it gave me the hunger to want to carry on doing it beyond that.
So when the band did what it did, how long was the transition from that to where you are now on Virgin EMI?
Quite a long time. I mean, I'd been doing the solo thing for about 3 years or 4 years before I signed to Virgin. And I'd started with like, I actually was signed to a indie 360. He was a prick, to be quite honest.
Right.
And if he hears that or not, I don't really care. He knows I think he's a prick. But he promised me the world and delivered on none of it. And you know, when you're like slightly naive to this, and you don't really understand how the game works and how people sell the dream, you can have a lot of your time wasted and a lot of your emotional energy exhausted.
Well, this is something I'd be interested to talk about, because a lot of people listening, you know, getting a deal would be the target. I'd imagine there'll be all sorts of charlatans out there who'll do exactly what you've just...
Well, it's also like the thing that like the last few years have taught me that the deal isn't the achievement. The deal is a job interview that's gone well. Do you know what I mean? So like if you've got a record deal, like I meet so many people that have just signed like deals to indies to majors and whatever, and they just lose their head, become a prick, and then all of a sudden they get dropped 6 months, 12 months later because they just thought that they'd made it. And it's like, whatever making it means is different to every single person, but if they thought that like life was just about getting rich and having nice cars and everything else, they assume that having a record deal is going to do that. And then all of a sudden you get dropped and whatever else, and you're on your arse, and then like it gets into a really dark place of like why there's so much suicide and stuff in music and whatever else. But I think that is down to people not really understanding the way the industry works and how like brutal a place it really is.
That's part of the podcast, really, isn't it?
No, totally. And I like the way you phrased that, a job interview gone well, because almost, if you know, in any job, if you pass the job interview, that's when the hard work starts.
Absolutely. Almost. And if you don't do a good job of the job you've been given, you get dropped, you get sacked, you get fired, you get whatever you want to call it. It's an opportunity that you have to deliver on. Like they're not signing you to just have your life made for you. They're signing you because they believe you have potential.
Yeah. They
don't believe that it's there yet. Otherwise, they wouldn't need to sign you in the first place. You wouldn't need them in the first place. It's like it's a door opening. You've got to go and do something about it, and deliver on your promise.
Yes. How long into that first experience then did it take for you to realise just this is not
the
what
previous label and manager guy? Well, it was like he had a band that were like his flagship band, and he just I don't know, like all the things that I was trying to do, I was very proactive as a person. Trying to settle my own shows, and I was promoting my own night and stuff and just trying to make things happen. And he'd just like poo-poo every idea I had, but then provide no feedback as to why he'd done it or whatever else. And in the whole time I was with him for about 6 months, and I met him once.
Right.
He wouldn't answer the phone. He only ever spoke to me on Facebook Messenger. It's just like it's like, mate, are you for real?
Yeah.
Like you've promised me that you're gonna do the best possible job as a manager and as a mentor and a human being to turn to when like you're struggling with things, like you're an arsehole.
Yeah.
And but there's so many of those about, and there's so many young naive kids that just want to be a musician or famous or whatever their motive is for doing it and wanting to do it, that they get away with it because every now and again there's one that comes along that actually will do all right, and they'll make enough money out of that to be able to just like justify lying to everybody else. And sorry if this has gone a bit sinister.
No, but it's a reality, right?
It is a reality,
We got caught in that once before because I was on holiday and you rang us and said you're going to get a phone call from a record label to join this battle of the bands. Like, he wants certain bands on. And it became quite apparent that he was just promoting his 2 bands but using 6 other bands around
with their fans and friends and whatever else
to fill the crowd up.
Absolutely. The other one was Pay to Play when I started, like with the band. I never got into it as like solo stuff, but we had this one guy that was like doing these like filmed sessions. It was when I can't remember what the program was called, but it was on Sky TV, and they like there was like loads of different music channels popping up. And they had like this slot that they basically bought within this music channel or whatever, and they were putting on like tracks from live gigs. But the way they'd set it up, it become like this pay to play. So you paid to have the thing filmed. You had to pay somebody to set up the gig and whatever else, and the rigging for the lighting and all this rubbish. And you're like, and by the end of it, you just paid to be on like at 4 a.m. on some shit TV channel that no one cares about anyway.
Watched, yeah.
But there's loads of little things like that going on, and like it still is. They're just finding new ways around doing it, and like new platforms to rinse people on, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
No, definitely. So there's definitely something in doing your research and in terms of.
But it's just learning, man, as you go along. Do you know what I mean? It's hard to say you need to do your research before you know, because until you encounter those people, you don't think that anyone's that much of a dick. Yeah, it's like you have to have a reason to think. Actually, I need to sort my head out.
Definitely.
But I mean, that was the sort of band transition into that manager and stuff. Shortly after him, I was like, right, I don't want to do this. I basically had a radio plugger that was going to work for him on my track, and I rung him up one night and I was like, can you talk? We'd never spoken before ever. And he was like, I'm in the cinema. And I was like, I really need to talk to you. Because when you're in it, it's like, it's so there.
It's your world.
It is your world, and you care so much about it, or I certainly did.
Yeah.
And it was like, I need to talk to you tonight, if that's all right. And he's like, okay. I had to step out, and we were on the phone for 45 minutes. We got on really well, blah, blah, blah. And he came to a show because he was going to plug, and I was going to self-manage for a bit.
Right.
And then... yeah, he was like, actually, I've never really been interested in this before, but I think I quite want to manage you. And I was like, cool, let's see what happens. He was like, you know, I'm learning as I go along. I've never managed anybody before. He's very honest about it. And then now we're like 3 years in, and you know, it's him that I've been with for, you know, unsigned to signed and stuff, and to now. So and just finding genuine people is really beneficial.
The honesty, yeah. No, totally. I mean, so going to the...
I was going to say this has gone well off topic.
No. So how did the good deal come about then?
Well, but beyond like that spell of negative energy from this guy,
Probably did you well, actually.
It did, and I learnt a lot about the industry based on him being a cock. So, you know, we moved forward as David and I. We ended up doing quite a bit of BBC introducing, so they gave us like the Radio 1 playlist on a track called Ivory that's like relatively old, and then the Reading and Leeds Festival slots, and the head of A&R for Virgin actually came to Reading to my set there, and then that was when we started the talks and everybody got into like negotiations, and then we signed. How much
do you get involved in that then?
To be honest, quite a bit, just because when you've had somebody else looking after it that isn't trustworthy, you think, actually, I'm going to make sure that I have my finger on the pulse at all times. Yeah. But then I also, like, one thing I was going to mention was, like, I went to university for a year so that I could move down to London. This was after the ex-manager. Yeah. I was like, right, I'm just going to get to London, you know, keep on doing my thing that I'm doing up here, down there, and see if I can get any further and whatever else, carry on writing. And my reason for going to university was so that I could have a government student loan rather than having to have a job. Because if you've got a full-time job and you're working 5 days a week, you get, because I've done that, I have had full-time work in the past, you get home and you're not like, I want to write songs, you're like, I want to go to bed. I need to go and sleep. And I just knew that if I was to move to London and have a job, I wouldn't end up doing any of it. It was like, right, if I can get a student loan to be my safety net and put food on the table and a roof over my head, I can have the time that I need to properly go at it and just write.
And what kind of subject were you doing at the time?
Music management.
Perfect.
Ideal.
There you go.
Because
that's a good reason to go to university, that actually.
Yeah. Well, it was just like learn about the things and the doors that you need to open, and eventually, hopefully, the opportunity will arise.
So how useful was that then in terms of...
It was good. I mean, there was a few dodgy lecturers that would like teach me things that actually weren't right at all. Like, other than that, it was fine, and I met some really lovely people and stuff, and I've got friends now from that course and stuff, and it was great. It was a cool way to be in the city that I needed to get to in my mind. I mean, of course it can work everywhere else, but in my mind I was like, I need to get to the capital, I need to be amongst it and be a part of that, and figure out how I can progress from where we already were.
So in hindsight, was that a good move for you, going to London?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, it's hard to tell whether anything would have been different if I hadn't or not, but I'm happy with where I'm at. and I'm glad that I made those decisions and sacrifices and stuff. And yeah, I think it was a good thing.
That's good. Yeah, we've had another person before, haven't we, who moved to London to make that big step. And when it works, it really does work.
Yeah.
No matter how you think about London or whatever, there's plenty of opportunity there.
It makes life easier. It does make it easier.
Yeah, and I definitely agree, because we started in uni, didn't we? And when you have the time to go and practice on a Tuesday from like 11 till 5, because you can. But when we started gigging, we gigged when we had full-time jobs. And actually, you're right, I remember
it's hard, man. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
And you're like, and people, I'm sure, are like, why are you whinging? You play music, like it's great, it's great. And it's actually like, it's hard work. Music on its own is hard work. Jobs on their own are hard work. Doing the two is like having two jobs.
Yeah, it is.
Whether you're getting paid for one or not is irrelevant.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Because we would do a gig on a Monday. I remember doing a gig on the Monday. I went to work the next day, shattered.
Yeah.
The mistakes I was making. That's how I got away with it.
You end up doing both things badly, really, is that?
Yeah.
Then I have practice on a Tuesday and then a gig on a Thursday or Friday.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
It's full on.
It is. I mean, however, for people listening, if you have got a full-time job, it's still worth.
No, of course it is.
Do them both.
Of course it is, but like, hats off to you for being able to juggle the two, because it is hard work.
Totally.
So I'm interested in musically how you've evolved. You're still very young, certainly compared to the two of us.
Right.
You've talked about when you're in the band, certain style. When I've been listening to your music over the last couple of weeks, a lot of it seems sort of quite epic and quite sort of grand. I'm just interested in terms of, whether that was what you always felt was the songs that you would sort of write, and they'd sort of trapped inside you while you were doing this other type of music.
Maybe. Like, I always loved the band thing, because when you're having it with a band of mates or whatever, you do get that feeling of grandeur, and it's like, it does feel big. It wasn't necessarily the tightest thing in the world at the time, but like, that bit I always loved about it. And I've always like written stuff that a lot of people say to me that it has like cinematic qualities, and like I love soundtracks, and I love Hans Zimmer, and I love Einaudi, and like that is definitely an influence to me, and I'm like glad it comes across. My whole thing with like writing and that process of writing a song, recording it, blah blah blah, like the whole point in that is to transfer emotion from me to somebody else. And I feel like it doesn't matter whether that's negative or positive, as long as it does something, and as long as it actually makes that move. But whenever I listen to soundtrack music or like scored music or whatever, orchestral stuff, like that moves me. So maybe that is like where that stems from. I don't know. Maybe a little bit.
Yeah. How many instruments can you play?
A few. Like guitar is my main, and then like piano. Started playing drums when I was a teenager because I just enjoyed hitting shit. And then bass kind of came because I was like demoing in my room and stuff. But yeah, I just got a big love for like synths and everything. I love keys, I love guitar.
So that was going to be as a sort of a solo act, albeit that you have a band. How much does at least some level of ability on other instruments help you build a
well, it definitely helps with like the live show and stuff, because I know what I can hear before I'm asking somebody else to do it, kind of thing. And being able to just sit with the guys and be like, this is what I've got in mind, blah blah blah. But yeah, it came from demoing stuff at home when the band fell apart. I was like, I want to carry on. I'm just gonna just sit here and just put things together and like get arrangements together so that they work. But it's definitely beneficial.
How much time do you spend on other instruments, if any?
Quite a lot. Right. I have them all at home. Like I've got like a studio set up at mine, and I've got everything there. So, I mean, it's like it's semi a lounge, semi a studio. It's not like a lovely built thing that I've got. It's like it's in the corner of the room. My neighbours love it.
I bet.
Yeah.
So, there was one other thing. When I've been doing a bit of research, I saw something. Don't know if this is true, but you went to Africa for quite a bit.
Yeah.
What prompted that, and what did that involve?
So basically, it's a bit odd, but like my dad's girlfriend was working for the Botswanan Health Ministry. She's like an ophthalmic specialist or something. It's to do with eyesight and blindness in kids particularly. And she was over there, and she was doing a lot of like teaching and helping new like medical practitioners and stuff with techniques that we have that they don't and stuff. And she was meeting radio people and doing things based on the project that they were running. But she was like, actually, like, you should have a listen to this. She was dishing my CDs out,
Alright.
Obviously. And then a couple of the DJs at RB 1 and 2, which is basically their equivalent to like BBC Radio 1 and 2. They based it on the BBC. They just started playing stuff. They really liked it. So like a couple of old tracks they started playing quite a bit. And then another friend of hers was running a few bars and music venues and like jazz clubs and stuff out there. And he was like, it might be a good idea for Adam to come play some gigs because like he's on the radio quite a bit out here, and it would be cool. And obviously at the time I was still playing to like bar staff.
Yeah.
And I was like, of course I'll do it. and he was like, I can make the trip worthwhile. He can be paid for all the stuff. And it was like, okay, when's the flight, mate? Let's go. So yeah, like we got that all on, and then went out there for about 3 weeks or something. I did about 2 weeks worth of gigs. I think I did about 9 or 10 gigs or something, and then went on safari for a week out in like Kasane, which is like northern Botswana or something. And there was like, this is where I wrote Ivory. So basically, like they had this place that was like, it was just the least health and safety worried place in the world. It was just like free roaming elephants. So like you set up a tent or like slept in your car there or whatever, and they would just be there. It's like a designated, like they have. It's a bit of a sanctuary, like they like help injured elephants and stuff, and it's like a protection centre against poaching and stuff. But while we were there, like if you see elephants in the wild, it is like dinosaurs. But it feels like you are among Jurassic Park. It's different in a zoo, and I don't know why that is.
I've just got back from Kenya.
Have you done it? Mate, it's incredible.
Those boys can shift.
They are huge. No shit. Well, they a couple of days before we got to where we were staying, they charged a car and flipped it. Flipped the car across through the road. But it's so sad they're out there with that whole sanctuary. Their purpose is to like stop poachers and whatever else, because I think they brought in a death penalty for poaching. And there was this, which is great, as they should everywhere else. But there was this ranger guy that we met, and he was sort of talking us through what his job entails and stuff, and showing us around the sanctuary and like the elephants they were looking after and stuff. And he had like these pictures on his phone of things that he'd found, as in carcasses of elephants that he'd found that have had the tusks cut out of them while still alive. Because these guys will turn up like in a blacked out car or whatever, and well, not blacked out, but it'll be in the dead of night, no lights or anything. They'll just creep up on them, cut them out, leave them for dead. And it is the most graphic thing in the world, man. It is awful. Like not an ounce of like soul in any of those people, man. It makes me physically sick. But but that again, like coming back to what I said before about like feeling something and music being that, I just started writing about it when I got home. I
love that when someone's written a song and it's something that actually means a lot. It's not just some random words about some random thing that means nothing. I'm not like a nature nut or anything like that. I'm not out with placards every day or whatever. But like that just hit me harder than anything I did in my life before. It was just like, but it did. It just made me want to like speak about it in some way. Yeah, like it. So what were the gigs like out there? I mean, how many people were you playing to?
So it was like they were mainly like bars. It was like I don't know, like 100 or a couple of hundred people each night or whatever. But it was like they build it as like a UK artist, blah blah blah, and that was quite exciting. Or whatever. Yeah. So I did like a sort of a few covers and the songs that I had at the time and stuff, but it was really nice, man. They were just really grateful for the fact that somebody had bothered to come over. I mean, I don't know that certainly at the time, like not many people would do Botswana as a gig circuit, so it's certainly not my level.
Crop up on
well, they had like Coldplay over and stuff like that, but in terms of much smaller scale acts, like it was pretty unheard of. So they were like really up for it. And
and
the couple of songs that were on the radio, there was a few people singing along to and stuff, and it was just cool little moments. Like, I'll never forget those nights. So.
Well, it just shows there's so many opportunities out there, and most people you'd never think. Can we get some airplay? In Botswana. But no, that's weird.
It was good, man. It was a bit of a lifetime moment. It was lovely.
Yeah. So we've already touched upon where you are now, but basically how much does life change instantly? Because we never got a deal. We had little sniffs around, like you were saying. Mm-hmm. How, like, when the machine starts, the music machine, what is that like? Again,
I think it's something that you assume is going to be this miracle moment, but actually it's just like your first day at the office you've just started working at.
Right.
You've got to go in, you've got to prove yourself. You're a new signing or whatever, but that doesn't mean that you're automatically going to be given respect even from a label or whatever. I mean, don't get me wrong, my label have been great to me.
Yeah.
And we have really good relationships there and stuff, and everyone's ultra excited about everything, but you can't just assume that just because you've been signed it's going to work straight away. And I've been on the label about 18 months now or whatever, and it's been more about figuring out what is right for us to be doing. Like, I had my first A&R guy actually left about a year ago, and that ended up being the best thing that happened. He's a lovely guy and stuff, but he was trying to push me in a direction that I was not comfortable in going in.
Right.
But thankfully, I was happy to put my foot down with it and stuff, and we've ended up releasing music that I am genuinely really passionate about and love. Mm-hmm. But I think that's one of the big problems with signing to a corporate beast is there's a lot of opinions in that building, and there's a lot of people that think that they're right because they've done it before and it's worked for somebody else. But actually, it's the tailor-made suits. Every single record that you got to put together, it's not going to work because it worked for somebody else. It's going to work because the artist is working with somebody that they want to work with, or that they look up to and respect. There's got to be a level of respect when picking a producer, or whatever it may be, collaborations and everything else that goes on now. You can't just do it because it's worked for somebody else. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Yeah,
I think that's a good message.
It definitely is. So what's next? Debut albums, that sort of stuff? Is that?
We've recorded quite a big bulk of it now. There is I write a lot of music, so I'm always like, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? I'm never happy and content with the album or
whatever.
What's
a lot to you then?
I'm probably sat on 4 albums worth of songs.
Right.
Easily, if not more. But that's mainly because my hobby is writing music.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and when I've got downtime and stuff, it's I'm happy to do that because it's my way of relaxing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, album, I don't know when that's going to be. You've got to kind of earn the right to do it. You've got to build enough interest to make it. I don't know. I think if you do it too early, it's it's a bit. It feels immature to do it too early, and expect for people to just want it. And to care about it enough to not get you dropped or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's the reality, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's if it doesn't do well, you get dropped. So I don't know. It's just finding the right time to do that. We're now going to be releasing the next single in about 2 weeks' time. It's a song called Incompatible, and then we go on to festival season.
Yeah, that'll be big one at festival season.
Yeah, it'll be nice, man. We've got a fair few really cool ones we're doing. Our first one of June is in Oslo, in Norway. We had a really weird thing happen the other week. So basically, Britain's Got Talent.
Yeah.
So Norway's version of that, Norway's Got Talent. There was this acrobat that used weightless on her performance, and it's just all of a sudden all the hype and viral charts in Norway just started going ping 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 ping, and then my booking agent started getting calls and emails from festivals in Norway, and it was okay, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's our first festival next month.
That's pretty cool. Really.
Nipping out to Oslo, and then we come back for Bushstock, which is London. That's Communion's festival, and then we've got Boardmasters, 7 Layers in Amsterdam. Camp Festival.
Oh, that's a good festival.
There's about 10 or 15 that we're doing over the course of June, July, August, and then I think we're going to be touring again, a headline tour in October, September, something like that.
Oh, brilliant. Well, we'll stick links to your website and stuff.
Definitely, yeah, and you're more than welcome if we nip to Newcastle or if you happen to be anywhere else.
Nice one.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, best of luck with it all.
Thank you.
Before we go, is there any good cause charity you'd like to give a
I actually started talking to Surfers Against Sewage.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah, right.
The other week, because I quite like the idea that is a really fucking brilliant thing to be sorting out.
Yeah, it is.
So we were chatting. We're going to meet up at Boardmasters. So.
Right.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, happy days.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're great, man. They're doing a really good job.
Good stuff. I will stick something in the show notes for that as
Definitely.
well. Right, well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
For having me, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Enjoy the
Nice one. Enjoy. I'll see you later, guys.
Thanks
Nice
very much.
one.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Right then, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
You had 3 things you suggested to me that you wanted to
Yeah.
touch on.
So we've often spoke about, is the deal the main thing for an artist or a band? And in the main, it probably is.
Can be.
It can be. It's one of those like security blankets. I've got a deal behind us. I've got publishers. We can move on from just like trying to get more listens and more gigs and everything. But Adam made a brilliant point. Once you're signed and you go into Virgin EMI or whoever on Monday morning, you don't get the finest beetroot and the best jams and marmalades day one. You've got to earn your right.
Beetroot and marmalade.
Well, no. It's the first thing that popped in my head.
You'd have been great for a record deal. What do you want? Well,
The finest beetroot and the best jams and
do you even
marmalades.
like beetroot?
I love beetroot. Just don't eat too much.
Right.
But
Point noted.
but yes, it's that whole point of this is actually a job.
Well,
you're
I love
the
these
new
quotes.
kid on the block. The block.
Well, the block. I love this quote, which was, getting signed is just like a job interview that's gone well.
Yeah.
Right.
That's exactly what he said. That was it.
And that was a great way of putting it. That, you know what, just because you've signed this deal doesn't mean that therefore you are now going to be successful and sell millions of records. Even if you're on a really big label like Adam now is, he's got to prove himself. He's got to prove that he's going to build a fan base, generate interest and a buzz, and actually get some, get a body of songs together that's worthy of putting an album out. And it was just...
It's almost like the hard work starts now, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and he's put a lot of hard work in to get this point, right? Like 3 to 4 years, I think he said, that he's been sort of plugging away as a solo artist.
Yeah, and then you put on the band years and before that.
Yeah.
The years in London before that. But he is putting the work in, because if you follow his Twitter, Instagram and stuff, there's regularly new releases, and Weightless, one of his songs, hit 1 million streams on
It's a
Spotify.
lot of streams.
It's a lot of streams.
Yeah.
I
mean, 1 million is generally not a small number.
1 million always still seems to me like the number to hit. I don't know what for
Doesn't
what.
matter what you do.
Yeah, like a million.
Not keepy ups. You'd be there.
No, I mean
forever.
no.
No.
I don't think I'd get that far unless it was with a balloon.
You'd still get tired.
Oh, you would definitely get. It would take even longer.
You need to go to sleep. But yeah, it's an impressive feat, and it's not just happened by chance. He didn't just put that song up there and just sit back and wait for people to come and listen to it. There was a lot of graft. A
lot of in the writing, the production, that specific song to put out there.
Yeah,
it's not just by accident, really. And obviously, Virgin EMI are good. They've been doing it a little while.
They have.
So they know what's good when they hear it.
Yeah.
They're not going to put their name to something and go, that's just a peanut of a song, that let's not bother putting
But
it
also,
out.
he's not resting on his laurels and thinking, right, oh great,
million,
there.
Where's the beetroot?
Yeah. He's not waiting for the marmalade. He's going out and getting the marmalade.
Exactly. Without a doubt. And I think that's one of the beauty. I know we spoke about Apple Music and Spotify and stuff. That's the beauty. Like, essentially, he's a 1-2 EP artist. He's on the rise. You probably, if this was like 20 years ago, you'd start seeing him in NME and stuff like that, and you'd have to wait for releases. 1 million people's streamed a song of his.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah.
The album's not even out.
No, exactly. So in that intervening period of time, and I think there's something in this, that all the experiences through that manager who was utterly useless.
That was my point too, but yes.
Right. And if he'd just come into music
not been through his experience with his previous band and learnt everything that he'll have learnt with them, and then not having gone through that experience with this awful manager, he'd be far less prepared. And I think Adam sort of alluded to that. He was far better off for having gone through that painful, emotionally draining period. I mean, certainly not the band time. It sounded like he absolutely loved that, and that was a great experience. But then what followed was a trying sort of period, and then another however many years sort of building it back up. That's really helped to shape him.
Yeah, and one of the things that he picked up on himself, and that's something that we picked up on as well, because that was one of the main things I want to speak about, the bad experiences. And we had a couple of things like that, but he also didn't like put everything on this manager. He kind of had it like in his head, like, I'm a bit suspicious of you.
Yeah.
Seems a bit like too soon out the blocks.
And he
I never spoke to you in 6 months. Yeah. Who are you?
He sort of learnt the lesson that he's only going to get out what he puts in, and he wants to be able to almost stand on his own 2 feet. And the fact that he's got this label now, all the better. They can help and do loads of stuff. But he's still going to be able to do a lot of this sort of stuff himself. And I think when we've...
DIY
that's it. And when we've spoke to... If you take a Mark Morris as an example, you know, for most artists, even if you had to have a period of your career where you're riding that wave, you're really big...
Platinum albums.
There's only a finite amount of the Rolling Stones, Coldplayers of the world who will stay at that level forever. Most others, if you want to continue doing gigs like Mark's or the Roddy Wombles, or who are great artists and have been in extremely big and popular bands, a lot of the skills that you're learning during that early phase of your career is going to be very useful later on in your career as well.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what experience it is, good or bad. It definitely helps. That's why they call it experience. So that was part 1. Part 2 and part 3 was I quite like the fact he used going to uni in London as almost like smoke and mirrors to like, I need to go to London. Because this is where in his head he went, this is where I'm going to make it.
Well, he got creative there, didn't he?
Yeah.
It's like,
and I was like, that's because we started the band in uni and we kind of used uni as a perfect time to practice like for 6 hours on a Tuesday when we should be at work, but we're not because we're at uni, so we've got the time to do it. And it's just using your surroundings to your advantage. He's a solo artist. He's going to make contacts, friends in that world because it was music management. So all of that was just neat, and I thought that's a little clever thing to do, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Same, Jimmy McCready did something similar with what he's done with his career.
Yeah. Well, smart move.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, so the whole Botswana thing was brilliant. Like, so obviously, what led to that was circumstances, and there was a family member, and therefore he got some radio airplay, which led to one thing and another. But then when I was reflecting on that, I was like, that feels like there's something in that. So not everyone's gonna have a family member who happens to be doing something in a country like Botswana or somewhere, just anywhere that you wouldn't typically think of, and certainly not necessarily that someone's speaking to someone in radio stations over there. But we've been talking to, whether it was Mark Radcliffe in terms of sending things into the BBC, or more recently Frankie getting into Amazing Radio, whilst they might be more obvious routes, certainly for someone in the UK, and I'd imagine there'll be others in the US and other sort of more obvious popular stations to send your stuff to.
Harder to get on as
well.
The
amount of people you'll be competing against to get airtime on those because of the amount of people sending stuff through, versus I can imagine that there's not many UK sort of unknown artists that come across the desks of someone in a radio station in Botswana, and therefore I can only imagine them opening that and going, "Ooh, someone from the UK.
Nice.
That's it's a bit random. I'm at least going to give that a..."
Yeah. What I would like, I'm not suggesting people do this, but I kind of am. If the Botswana radio show then got like 20 demos from our audience, 30 demos from our audience,
yes.
and did a hit Botswana little mini festival.
Well, they're
obviously clearly there's a market there, because
totally. He was saying he played to a couple of hundred people each night when he went over there. I mean, I'd imagine most sort of up and coming acts are not going to sniff at the chance of playing a 2-week tour,
Botswana tour.
Yeah. Now, again, there's a lot of challenges in setting something like that up, right? And he had the advantage of knowing someone out there.
Doesn't have to be Botswana.
Contacts, all the rest of it. But a bit like the situation that Willie Mason had. You know? He ended up doing a tour in the UK based off radio play in a country he'd never even been to before in his life. So
I took a chance on a song.
Yeah, but again, he was lucky that his song got picked up in a very competitive market that's the UK. So I reckon there's something in just looking across the globe and thinking, all right, well, where might I send some stuff to? Pick a smaller nation.
I mean, it worked for us a little bit. Remember when we went to Ljubljana?
Yeah,
we were in that bar and they played our CD because they were like, "Who are you?" Oh, we're a band.
Charity of the week, Ben.
Yes.
Surfers Against Sewage. Like that.
I liked that a lot, and that ties in nicely with his other mini festivals that he's doing, because he's down at a festival near Brighton, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'm big on this, whether it's through all of the stuff that's been highlighted on the BBC shows that Attenborough's done. Too much plastic in the oceans.
Yeah, too much plastic.
Too much. So I think that's a great cause. Look after the planet.
Straws. Stop using straws. That's a simple thing to do.
Well, that's catching on. And,
it is.
Certainly in the UK, more bars and stuff stopping using plastic straws. But
there's a couple of big companies that should probably stop using straws, and they would help a lot.
Yeah, I've stopped using cling film for my sandwiches.
Nice.
Reusable Tupperware
bags.
So it's still plastic, but it's multi-use.
Yes,
at least.
It's not. Yeah.
I mean, it's one small example, but if everyone does small changes, then adds up to a big thing.
Plus, cling film is the devil. Doesn't work properly. So what's the point in it?
It's faffy as well.
Yeah, faffy. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Balls to cling film.
Balls to balls to cling film, and aim for that beetroot.
Coming up next week, Ben is on the tour bus of Everything Everything, speaking to John Higgs about moving cities, videos, identity, touring, and licensing music.
We've reached the end of this week's episode of Anyone Can Play Guitar podcast.
Big thank you for tuning in, and remember to stop by iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from and subscribe so that you never miss an episode.
While you're there, it would be amazing if you could leave a rating and a review.
All the show notes can be found at www.acpgmusic.com, and if you want to get in touch,
email us your questions, any feedback and any suggestions to info@acpgmusic.com.
That's it for now. Keep supporting upcoming artists,
and we'll catch you next time.